Yeah, I can explain what happened. Um, in fact, I think this is probably a really good time to stop for the night, doing runs, that is. And so what I will do is I will give you guys an explanation of Ace. To the best of my ability. I'm not the expert. But I can go through and show you guys what's happening. PB commentary? No, not quite. But I will explain what's going on. So the first thing to note is the file name, which was like 3 period space some bullshit. File name is important. We'll get to that later, though. So basically, what's happened so far, this save file is saved after I've gotten 55 rupees and then purchased, I've gotten the sword, I purchased the shield, and I purchased Decanuts, right? Some things to note is that over by that crawl space, there are some invisible rupees in the air that you can get when you backflip. I left one of them there on purpose. Inside this sign over here, there's another invisible 5 rupee. I left that there on purpose. There used to be a 5 rupee up on that bridge. Got that one. It's gone forever. There used to be a 5 rupee behind that house. Got that one. It's gone forever. And all of that is very important because what that basically does is, in memory, in this continuous space of memory where all of the objects in this room are loaded, which are called actors, the stuff that's gone leaves holes where other stuff can load in, right? And one other important thing to note is that actors aren't always visible things. By continuous, I mean like one big block of memory that's reserved for loading and unloading actors dynamically. And one thing to note is that an actor that we have access to is a spin attack, which you can't really see, but there's an actor that's spawned near Link's sword right now, and it controls the spin attack. Okay? So, we're going to start from leaving this shop, just so everything in memory is arranged the way we want. We're going to come over here. And so here's what we're going to do. There are 2 rooms here. The village is all one room. That's the room I'm in right now. And there's also a room over there, right around the middle of this stretch of hallway. There's a transition between the room I'm in and the next room. And you can tell that the room is changing by like a bit of lag when I cross the transition, as the game unloads everything in here and loads everything over there. And you can tell most easily by when the enemies spawn. When the enemies spawn, that means I'm in the new room. So I'm going to come over here, and we're going to load the enemies. And then what we're going to do is we're going to load in my spin attack actor, and we're going to make sure that exists while I leave this room and go back into the village. Right? And then we're going to do similar things over and over again. We're going to load another spin attack, load this room, then we're going to do a camera glitch called Return A, which I'll get to why we're doing that in a little bit. There we go. And then last but not least, we're going to get another spin attack going and go across the room transition. So basically, everything that we just did, aside from Return A, which is the camera glitch, everything that just happened was done so that things in this room would load in memory in a particular pattern in particular places. In particular, the rock that's to the left of the screen right now, the one that Navi is highlighting on, that one is really important, and that's the rock that we care about most. So I'm going to use Return A, which is the camera glitch, and also that crawl space glitch that I just did, to get the camera to behave in such a way that I can do something special. And that something special is pick up this rock while the camera flies away. So what the camera just did was a result of the glitches I did for the camera. Hold on. 2, 3, 4, 2. Okay, so basically what happened is I picked up that rock that I was standing right near, and at the same time I sent the camera flying away, and it locked in place. And that's a combination, or this is happening because of the crawl space glitch that I did, where I read the sign coming right out of the crawl space. And that's important because the rocks that are on the ground, they will actually unload when the camera gets too far away from them. Or, yeah, so they'll unload when the camera gets too far away, but they can't unload when they're in Link's hands. And so if I pick up a rock so that Link is in the process of lifting it while the camera gets far enough away, then the rock will get into... It's not really unloading, but I'm just going to use the word unloading. The rock will unload in Link's hands as the camera flies away. And so then he's carrying something that doesn't really exist, right? And what I've been doing off camera right now is navigating Kokiri Forest so that I'm still holding the rock and I don't fall in any water so I don't drop it. All the way back to that room transition where the Dekubabas are. And now I'm here, right? So I'm carrying this rock, this fake rock. Link still thinks he's carrying it, and that's really important. Because when Link is carrying something, what he does to it is he writes his position and rotation data, his own position and rotation data, like his own coordinates and stuff. He writes that stuff to the corresponding place in memory for the position and rotation of the thing he's carrying. And that way, if he does that every frame, it makes it look like the thing that he's carrying is actually in his hands, because it follows you every frame, right? So that's how carrying things works. So basically now, what we've done is, we've arranged memory in such a way that something else, since the rock in Link's hands doesn't really exist, but he thinks it does, he's still writing that position data and angle data to the place in memory where the rock used to be. But that memory is free now. Something else could load in there. Can I pick it up after dropping it? No, once I drop this thing, it's gone. This thing doesn't actually exist. Link just thinks it does, right? And so he's continuously writing his position and angle data to the place in memory where the rock used to be, but is no longer. And that memory is free. And so we can load something else into it, right? And so basically what's going to happen is Link is going to start writing that position and rotation data to some attribute of whatever happens to load into the place where the rock used to be. And in particular, we are going to go back into this room. And remember that rock up by the crawl space that Navi was highlighting? That rock is where the other rock used to be in memory. And so what we're going to do is, we're going to... Whoops, is this right? Yeah, there we go. We're going to overwrite some data in that rock. So I dropped that rock at a very particular angle in space. And what that did was, once I get to a safe place, I'll explain the rest. That rock that's up by the crawl space just received the last bit of data that Link wrote before he dropped the invisible thing. And so what that did was, in particular, that rock has a pointer, which is basically just a piece of data that says where something is in memory. That rock that's up by the crawl space has a pointer to the address where that rock usually finds a function that controls how that rock is drawn on screen, when it happens to be drawn on screen. And so whenever that rock meets the conditions for it being drawn, which is when the camera is looking at it from sufficiently close, that rock is going to use the pointer to know where to find the function that controls how to draw it. But I changed that pointer by writing some data there, using the invisible rock glitch above my head. And so I basically told that rock over by the crawl space, your draw function is not over there, it's over here, right? And so now this other place in memory that I told it to look, it's going to try to execute code there because it thinks that's where its draw function is. And so what we're going to do is, we're going to write some data there to that new place that we told the rock to look. Oops. I'm just doing this very carefully so it works. Okay, so, like I said earlier, the spin attack spawns an actor. and that actor has some data inside it. And so the Y and Z positions of that spin attack actor that I just made, we've arranged memory in such a way that the Y and Z positions of that actor arrive at the address that the rock is looking for to find its draw function. Right? So basically what we just did is we wrote some data to the exact place in memory that we told that rock to look at whenever it needs to draw on screen. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to go look at that rock. And that's why we come over here. We stand in this corner because this is a very useful position, because right now that rock is not being drawn. But if I go into see up mode, the camera gets just close enough so that now the rock is being drawn. You can't see it, but it meets the conditions of being close enough to the camera and on screen so that that rock is being drawn. But if we were to walk over there right now, we'd see that rock is invisible, because when the rock is being drawn, it's looking at the pointer in that rock to know where to find its draw function, but we redirected it over there, and it sees the coordinates of my spin attack. But the coordinates of my spin attack aren't code, but we chose them in a very particular location. I did that spin attack way up there on the hill, so that the Y and Z coordinates of the spin attack actually do mimic real code. And that code, basically, is being executed right now. Every single frame, because the rock executes its draw function every frame. So the code that we wrote with that spin attack is being executed right now, every single frame. And what it's basically doing is the commands that we wrote with the spin attack tell the game to jump execution elsewhere. Because all we were able to do was write like one instruction with those coordinates. So it tells execution to jump elsewhere, start executing code from somewhere else. And that somewhere else happens to be the state of controller 3. The buttons that are pressed and the position of the analog stick. And that's where all that controversy comes into play. My controller 3 right now has some weights on some buttons, and it has a rubber band around the analog stick, so that the analog stick is in an exact position. And so the state of the control stick, or the state of controller 3, right now, says another jump instruction, and it says go execute code over here. And that next place that it's going to execute code is the file name of this file. And that was chosen specifically to give us some instructions, which do two things. It takes the contents of one of the registers in the N64, which is flip-flopping every frame between two values, and it's going to take those contents and store them to the cutscene that's going to play if I were to leave this area right now. So, and then it also jumps back to execution safety. So, all of that we just did, we have the coordinates of the spin attack being used to jump to the controller 3, which is controller 3 is being used to jump to the file name, and file name is being used to set the cutscene exit that we're going to take. And so basically the next exit that I take is going to have a cutscene offset applied to it. And so basically when I exit C up right now, that rock stops being drawn. And remember how I said the value of the cutscene is flip-flopping every frame? There's a 50% chance that I exit C up on the value that will work for the wrong warp. And I happen to do it right here, and I know that because I'm pressing the pause button right now and it's not working. If I were to go back into C up and get the bad one, now the pause button is working, and so I got the bad one. So we just have to do it enough times until it works, which is when the pause button fails. I got first try there, but I just wanted to show you guys the others. Okay, so now it's working again. And so basically now all I need to do is exit the area, and a cutscene offset will be applied, and that cutscene offset will basically cause a wrong warp, which is like the same kind of wrong warps that we always do in this game, which is cutscene offsets applying to exits that they shouldn't. And going in this house with the cutscene offset that we took from all of that code happens to send us to the credits. And that's it. That's how that all works. Basically everything that we do is just to arrange memory in such a way that we can get that rock to, instead of executing its draw function, execute some code that we write ourselves.